Good afternoon, Year 8. Welcome back to our fourth week of virtual learning. Sixth week of being locked down, fourth week of virtual learning. So I hope it's going well for you and you're not, that you're enjoying these lessons. This one's particularly good, actually. So brace yourselves. Do now. Mexico's Day of the Dead. Some of you might have heard of this. If you have, I'd like you to just write down what you know about it. And if you haven't, you're going to find out about it this lesson. Okay, so our learning objective today is to learn about the Day of the Dead, which is a festival in Mexico celebrating the dead. And we're going to write an informative piece about it in the form of a script. And the title for today is The Day of the Dead Informative Writing. Write that into your books. Okay, on this slide there is a hyperlink which will take you to the opening of a James Bond film, which is set in Mexico City on the Day of the Dead. It's brilliant, and it'll actually give you an idea what the celebrations are like. So have a look at that, and then go on to the next slide. Here's a piece of text we're going to be looking at today. An informative piece of journalism. We're going to looking at the aspects of it that make it an informative piece of writing, and then doing a piece ourselves, as I said. So I'll read it to you. I will be attaching this to class charts, but you really don't have to print it out. In fact, I don't think I will. I don't think you don't need to. You can look at it on this slide. That's fine. Celebrating Mexico's Day of the Dead. A melancholy man lovingly decorates the grave of his dead wife with marigold petals and prepares for an all-night vigil. A raucous family in the same cemetery remembers their dead relative with alcohol, chilaquiles, tortilla chips, and song. A 3-year-old excitedly carries a sugar skull to his kindergarten, where he will proudly put it on the school altar. A protest group sets up an altogether more sombre version outside a government office to demand justice for murdered young girls. Mexico's El Dia de Muertos is a colourful, poignant, mystical, political, contradictory, satirical, macabre and rather childish all at the same time. The origins of the festival stretch back to the different ancient cultures who lived in the area but shared a fascination with death. At the core of the celebration are the ofrendas, or altars, which are said to guide the spirits of the departed back to earth for a brief sojourn among the company of those they left behind. For a feel of how much preparation goes into them, pop into a market from the last week of October until the 2nd of November. Any market will do. There you will see locals struggling under the weight of huge bunches of bright orange cembazuquitl flowers, local marigolds, and a very smelly bright purple flower that act as beacons for the dead. Then there are the piles of pan de muerto, a sweet round decorated bread that provides the spirits with food when they have found their way. Most of the stalls are dedicated to the more humorous side of the celebration. There will be models of skeletons getting drunk in cantinas and sugar skulls with space to write your name on the forehead in coloured icing. There is a lot of Halloween paraphernalia too. But rather than smothering local traditions, it has simply been incorporated into the general cacophony. For me, the highlight of being in Mexico City on the night of the 1st of November, the heart of the ceremony, is the chance to drive 30 minutes down the road and spend a couple of hours or so in the cemetery in San Gregorio Atlapulco Solquilmico, on the edge of the city. Activity in the cemetery itself doesn't really get going until well after dark, but it is worth the wait. By midnight it is literally buzzing with activity as families arrive laden with brooms, buckets, flowers, candles and everything else they need to set up their ofrendas on top of the graves. Each is different and some are stunningly creative. Some families sit around eating and drinking tequila, chatting about the departed and singing their favourite songs. Minstrels and mariachi bands wander along the path offering a more professional performance for a fee. Children play between the graves and the elderly sit wrapped up in heavy blankets, preparing to wait the night through. If you speak Spanish, most people are happy to tell you about their dead and their traditions, although there are also those deep in silent thought and more melancholy tributes who obviously want to be left alone. The cemetery is open to anybody who wants to go, and I've never seen any sign of irritation with strangers taking photographs, although it is advisable to discreetly ask permission before taking closer shots. The first time I went in 2000, there were no other outsiders. The last time, in 2008, I spotted several other foreigners wandering around with cameras, but the cemetery is a long way from being overrun. Right, there are lots of quite difficult words in there. Mexico's El Dia de Muertos is colourful, poignant, mystical, political, contradictory, satirical, macabre and rather childish all at the same time. And I want you to rewrite that sentence in your own words. See how much of it you can do without going to the dictionary first of all. Perhaps some of you can do it all. Perhaps you know what those words mean. Obviously I think everyone knows what colourful means. Poignant is kind of sad, but not it's a kind of a almost a sort of poetic sadness. Poignant. Mystical, I imagine you know what that means. Political. Contradictory means one aspect of the festival contradicts another aspect. Satirical, which means it's sort of taking taking aim at sort of governments and leaders. I think there's the piece about the murdered girls in there. Macabre, which means sort of horror, and childish. I'm sure you know what that means. So write that sentence in your own words. Okay, I want you to do a couple of bits of analysis now. You'll probably need your dictionary, or maybe not. Halloween paraphernalia. Look up what paraphernalia means. And then this quote, but rather than smothering local traditions, it has been incorporated into the general cacophony. So I want you to analyse in there those two words, smothering and cacophony. And then you won't need a dictionary for this one. The cemetery, it is literally buzzing with activity. How does that make the reader feel about that, about the ceremony if you say it's buzzing with activity? And I'll give you 10 minutes to do that. Okay, starting from paragraph 2, what do you learn about the festival? It's important that a piece of writing like this puts across specific pieces of information. So from paragraph 2 onwards, highlight the text where it tells us something specific about the festival, and then write the list of those things in your books. I'll give you 10 minutes to do that. Now you've got that list, I want you to, it's completely up to you. 1, 2, 3, the 3 things that you think are most interesting about the festival. You might, for example, think that the people protesting about the murdered girls is particularly interesting in the middle of what's quite a light-hearted festival. You might think that icing your name onto the forehead of a skull made out of cake is the most interesting thing. It's up to you. It's entirely up to you. So the 3 most interesting things I want you to write into your books, and that will take you 10 minutes. There is a hyperlink on this slide which links to an advert written in, spoken rather in Spanish for the Mexican Tourist Board. I want you to, so obviously you won't be able to understand it unless you can speak Spanish. So what we're going to do is we're going to write a script for this piece of film. So watch it, make some notes on what information you get just from the visuals, and think about what you might write in your script, and then go to the next slide. I would spend about 10 minutes on that. Okay, now we're doing a mind map of all the things that a tourist needs to know. They need to know where they can stay. They need to know when things are happening. They need to know what's safe, or rather where's safe and where isn't. They need to know where they can change their money, where they can get some food, all those types of things. So do a mind map of those bits of information that are going to go into your piece of writing that you do a little later. That should take you 10 minutes, year 8. So write your script. Go back to the slide with the link on. Look at it a couple of times and write your script. Read your work to yourself, remembering that it's a script, and make sure that you've included a range of sentence structures for effect, figurative language being similes, metaphors and so on, some impressive vocabulary, but make sure you spell it correctly, and a range of a range of punctuation. And then please, Year 8, send it to me and I will reward you. So have fun with that, and I'll speak to you. Do I see you tomorrow? I do not. I'll speak to you again on Wednesday, last thing. All right, enjoy that, Year 8. Speak to you on Wednesday.